A very good afternoon to you. Thanks for choosing Newzroom Afrika. Let's start off with the FIFA Women's World Cup, where not only did Spain make it through to the final, their first final ever after defeating Sweden, but we're also looking ahead to the next match. But somebody that has just returned to home soil after a historic run is Kholosa Biyana. A very good afternoon. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika. It's so great to have you in studio. You brought so much joy to South Africa along with your teammates.
Good afternoon, Vay. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much. We are so excited and happy with what we've just achieved as a team.
Has it actually sunk in?
No, definitely it has actually, because from the time we left, people have been behind us. When we arrived in South Africa, everyone, the people that I met, have been so excited about what we've achieved.
It was quite a difficult departure, though, after what happened in the match with Botswana, the kinds of negotiations that were happening. How did you, as players and as a team, just regroup after all of that?
I think for us, the most important thing was that we knew what we wanted. We had one goal, which was to go to the last 16, and we made sure that we just give our best and work together as a team. We're just excited to break records, to make history for us.
Yeah. How did you and the team kind of deal with the kind of negative responses that came Banyana's way? Not from everybody, but there were certain quarters that were quite negative after that Botswana game.
No, I think we all know that people will always have something to say, whether it's negative or positive. And I think they had the right to have a word in what happened. It was sad, but I think we sorted it out with our association, and we went into New Zealand and we forgot what happened at home. And I think the results and how we played, they showed that we're ready to play.
So how does it feel now to be a millionaire sitting here?
No, it feels great. I think it's not just about being that. I think it's not just about being a millionaire. I think it's about female football in Africa. It's about women's football. It's about female athletes as a whole, because we haven't just made history for us in South Africa, but for Africa as a whole. And I think for women in sport, it's a great achievement.
It certainly is, and there is so much positive kind of when you look at the reaction that women's football is getting from the public in New Zealand and Australia, everybody's talking about women's football. Did you expect this?
No, definitely. I think we expected it because we've been breaking barriers as women's football or women's athletes. We've been breaking barriers. And I think in Australia, especially in New Zealand, football for women wasn't a thing. But after this World Cup, people came in numbers, and they're still filling up the stadiums as we speak. So it's been exciting.
How did you guys deal with the weather in New Zealand? I saw some of your guys' training sessions in the pouring and driving rain, the wind at the stadium. You guys managed to deal with all of that?
No, definitely. I think one thing that helped us is traveling to New Zealand, I think 2 weeks before the tournament started. So we had time to adjust and just get used to the weather, acclimatize, which it made things very easy for us. But I assure you it was very difficult.
Tell us about the game against Argentina. You yourself picked up a second yellow, so that meant that you missed out on the Italy game. But being on that pitch and allowing that 2-goal lead to slip.
I think for me, I was sad, but at the same time I was very happy, because in the 30 minutes that I had, I think I gave my all. I fought for the country. And I think at that moment now, it didn't matter what would happen, because the result was 2-2. And we had to go into the next match to make sure that we qualified. And everyone that played on the day, they gave their best. It didn't even look like anyone was missing. So the players that played, they gave their best, and we made it through to the round of 16.
You gave it your all. You nearly even left your boots there.
Definitely. I think that's what is needed. Like in everything in life, that's what I do. I give my all. Whether I leave the boots behind, it's also a sign that I was giving my all. But I was enjoying myself most of all.
And what were the kinds of discussions that were happening among the team after that game? Because we let a lead slip against Sweden. We let a 2-goal lead slip against Argentina, and then you knew that fate wasn't completely in your hands because it also depended on what happened in the other match between Sweden and Argentina. But the team coming together in that final match against Italy.
I think the goal hadn't changed. We knew we had 1 point, and if we won, we would go through. We knew Sweden were going to give their best. It didn't matter what happened in their game. But what we had to do was to make sure we get the result, and then whatever happens in the other game, we'll see it after the match, and it went our way, which was great for us.
Were you quite surprised by the reaction of some of the Italian players that said they can't believe that all the South African players are not fully professional?
No, I think for us it's good going into games like that because they probably had spoken about something like that. So going into that game, it was an advantage to us because we didn't know what they thought about us. But we went onto the field and show them what we could do. But I think as female footballers in South Africa, we knew and we know what we are capable of. We knew we could take it further into the group stages. But we are glad that they noticed that. So I think that also is going to help push or grow women's football in South Africa especially.
You play for UWC in our semi-professional league, which is the top flight in South African women's football. You heard the minister saying after the defeat to the Netherlands and falling out in the round of 16 that he wants to make sure that women's football is completely professionalized. No,
that would be great for us. It would be great for women's football in South Africa, women's football in Africa. Because imagine if us achieving what we achieved and going into the last 16 with a semi-professional league, imagine what we could do when our league has been professionalized. Remember that we still have to do other jobs outside of football. So imagine if we'd just focus on football, just focus on training. I think we'd be one of the best teams in the world.
Certainly. Kholosa Biyana, midfielder for Banyana. Banyana, thank you so much for coming into studio and just sharing some of your memories of what certainly was a fantastic time for the South Africans watching it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and that's how we conclude your Focusing on Sport in this hour. News at Prime is next. Do stay with Newzroom Afrika.